Hello, and welcome to the Wirecast, the video podcast of Wiregrass, Georgia Technical College. Good afternoon, and welcome to the Wirecast. I'm your host, Michael Williams, and today I'm excited to introduce my guest, Josh Whittington. Josh is Executive Director of Economic Development at Wiregrass, Georgia Tech. He is a 2026 Technical College System of Georgia Senior Leadership Academy participant. He's the World Skills Coach for the USA in 2026, and my former assistant dean and former mechatronics instructor at Wiregrass.
Yeah, I wear a good bit of hats at the college and in the state.
Well, welcome to the podcast, Josh.
Thanks for having
You've
me
been
on.
in here behind the scenes quite a bit on it, so glad to have you as a guest. I think you should just start and tell our guest a little bit about what mechatronics is. We talk about these things all the time, but I don't want to confuse the audience.
Yeah, so mechatronics is the culmination of a lot of different disciplines. So we got mechanical, electrical, pneumatics, hydraulics, everything that you think would make a manufacturing process or a factory work. It's covered in mechatronics.
Okay. What's the difference between that and regular just automation technology, or what we used to call, industrial systems technology, like the guys that were industrial electricians, industrial mechanics? How does mechatronics build on that?
Yeah, so it kind of takes that entry level of a maintenance position and it brings it up a few more notches. So it focuses a little bit more on the programming aspect, the robotics behind it, and how all of them tie together into one project.
So how'd you get involved?
Well, I was very fortunate to be one of the first high school students in the state of Georgia to go through a dual enrolled mechatronics program. Um, I had signed up for drafting at my local technical college. It was Multi-Tech at the time. I showed up my first day in class, and they said, "Yeah, no, drafting isn't meeting anymore. We're going to put you in mechatronics." And I fell in love with it ever since. It was me and three other students in a classroom with equipment that I'd never seen before, and I was in the right place at the right time, and my instructors showed me what mechatronics and industrial systems were, and I fell right into it.
Well, that's interesting that it was drafting initially, because
Yeah.
if things had gone a different path, you'd be an architect right now.
Yeah, yeah, it would be on a completely different path, building a bridge somewhere.
Maybe you'd be the world coach for drafting. So what was your path after that? So when you completed it in high school, you enrolled at Multi-Tech.
Yeah, I rolled directly into technical college. I didn't take a summer off. Went right into it. My employer at the time was the city of Omega, and I started working a little bit more projects that were automation and water, wastewater based there.
Okay.
And that kind of gave me a really good foundation of where to take my skills, what direction to take my skills. And after technical college, I decided to go right into the workforce. And shortly after leaving technical college, they asked me to come back to work in a classroom. And I had signed up to help run a lab to maintain the equipment. And I showed up first day, and they said, "Here's a class of students. We need you to teach them electricity." And after that, I remained in education, and I've loved it ever since.
You never saw yourself as an educator?
Not one
Well, you
day in
have
my
a
life.
knack for it.
Well, thank you.
Obviously, but I mean, I've seen you in action, and you seem like a natural. I think some people are naturals and some aren't.
Yeah, it was never like
Mhm.
during high school and college. It was never my plan or intention to become, instructor or have a classroom of students to meet with every day. Definitely not on my bingo card.
So, but you also did economic development for a while back then, right? And so you were an academic instructor and then economic development?
Yeah, so economic development would have some projects come up here and there with our local industry, and I would work with them to fulfill those contracts. So it would be teaching during my off hours, going out to plants to do site visits, learning exactly what those manufacturers needed from their workforce, and upskilling them.
How have you seen the field change since you've been? And you're a young man,
Yeah,
but
yeah. Well, I've been in the world of automation for about 10 years now,
Mhm.
and it has evolved rapidly, even in the 10 years. So I would say I learned on a lot of legacy equipment, and kind of when I started my education, that's when everything started to happen really fast. So I got into programmable logic controllers at the right time. So I learned the legacy equipment and the new equipment. I was able to go in and help with like retrofitting projects and things like that.
And I always get it wrong, but can you explain a little bit more about PLCs, programmable logic controllers?
Yeah,
I had it told to me that Alan Bradley did that at the behest of General Motors in the early
yeah.
'80s. Is that
Yeah, so at the kickoff of automation and robotics, they still needed a way to program everything to make it happen without immediate input from, an employee or an operator.
or do I have to rewire the whole
Exactly.
line?
So
All right.
instead of having to retool the whole kit, instead of having to rewire, you'd have this one essential industrial computer that you could program new tasks into, and that technology has evolved rapidly over the last decade.
And it's in everything now,
Yes,
right?
and everything from a like your traffic lights; those are PLC driven. Um, some air conditioner units are PLC driven. Everything you could think of that happens by itself or it's automated. It's not someone behind the scenes pulling a lever anymore. It's a programmed computer at the industrial level.
Even like a digital soft drink machine
Yeah,
now would not, it's not a mechanical process going on in there.
exactly. Yeah, there's some controller board in it that's doing all the math for you. That has all the algorithms tied into it. That's making all that work happen.
All right, so explain Skills USA and how you came to be a coach for World Skills.
Yeah, so while I was a student at Technical College, I got to compete with Skills USA. And for those who don't know, it's like the Olympics for trade skills. So it has everything from welding to baking to cosmetology. And I competed in the Mechatronics competition, where we pretty much assemble a small manufacturing cell. And I competed. I got to the state level, went to the national level, and a few years actually after I got my national conference out of the way, they approached me with the World Skills team, and after that, after competing at the World Skills level, they asked me to come back and coach the next team, and now I feel like I'm in it permanently now. They keep on asking me to come back, which is great.
So, what did you place at nationals?
So, so the first time at state, I actually got silver. The
Okay.
second time I went to state, got gold. At nationals, I did come in second.
Mhm.
I got the silver medal for that.
Second
Um,
best in the country is
yeah,
not
second best in
bad
the
in the
country is
United
not
States of
bad.
America.
It was a little bit of a downer to be second best, but for the process of being on the World Skills team, we actually do interviews and there's some mandatory meetings you have to be a part of, and there's an age limit for the actual World Skills Conference. And I met all those at the time, and in 2017, I got to compete in Abu Dhabi.
Okay.
And after that, they asked me to start coaching.
And you've coached in France and Russia.
Yep.
Is that right?
Yep. Russia in 2019 and France in 2024. This year, we're actually very fortunate. We'll be going to Shanghai, China in September. So we'll be taking a two-man team. I think they're out of Tennessee, and we're going to train them up and get them ready for the competition in China.
The Chinese are pretty tough. Huh?
Yeah, so we compete against about 63 other nations, and that you can tell they are extremely dedicated to winning that competition. They're on a whole nother level. They've probably been practicing since they're 8, but and they have a lot of different circumstances. But yes, the competition is extremely rigorous. It's 4 8-hour days of nonstop competing, and those other teams have a lot of incentive to win.
I was watching a high school football game a few years ago with a guy that played on the team when I was there who was really good, and I could see it in his eyes. And I tapped him on the shoulder. I said, "You wish you were down there right now." And he's like, "Oh yeah." And I said, "How do you think you would fare?" And he's like, I'd crush him. I would destroy them all." How do you feel? What if you went back as a competitor now to World Skills? How do you think you would do?
Well, definitely understanding that system and how everything falls into place and how they're doing the scoring and what equipment to expect. Definitely, I feel like I'd have a better chance at competing now. Um, but then again, the some of the other countries that compete, I mean, they are next level. You would think that they are actually robots competing.
So China, I would assume Germany would be outstanding at
Yeah,
it, but is it more Asian countries that
more Asian
dominate?
countries. Some of the European countries do extremely well. Canada actually does pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
And some of your South American countries too, like Brazil is typically always at least in the top half.
Yeah. That makes sense. They're emerging. What do they call it? BRIC. Is
Yeah,
it Brazil, Russia, India, China?
yeah, yeah. They're pouring a lot of effort into upskilling their workforce and making sure that they're ready for that next industrial wave.
We'll talk about your time here at Wiregrass, how you progressed from instructor to executive director of economic
Yeah,
development.
so I started off as an instructor. I had a few mentors along the way, you included, and the opportunity came up to become an assistant dean. And at first, I was like, no, that's not what I want to do. Just kind of still figuring out my place at Wiregrass. And then a few people mentioned to me, say, hey, I think you'd be good at this. I would love for you to apply. And that's when I did. And I'm grateful for that opportunity. And I was an assistant dean for a little while before transitioning into economic development.
Well, I think you were a really good one, and you were a natural fit for it. Ironically, again, you're leaving a comfort zone to go do something you didn't know if you wanted to do.
Right.
But you've worked on your education all along too, so you are ambitious. You did have,
Yeah, yeah. So I did finish up my diploma from technical college, and I saw my path forward as requiring those degrees. So I pursued a bachelor's degree afterwards from Georgia Military College. And after I pursued that, after I finished that degree, I said, "Yeah, let's go ahead and knock out the master's," and I finished my master's program a couple of years ago now.
at LSU. You're
Yes.
a tiger.
Yeah. Went online. It was a very affordable opportunity, and it transitioned all my credits through seamlessly. It was a pretty good experience.
That's great. So, I run the economic development department, but I never get a chance to talk about it on here because I'm just the host.
Right.
So why don't you tell a little bit about what we do?
Yeah, so we work with all of our local industry partners to do upskilling, to do workforce development, any way that we can have a beneficial impact on their workforce. That's what we strive to do. Whether it's forklift, OSHA, CPR, that's kind of our go-to trainings, but we also provide customized solutions as well, which I'm heavily a part of. Typically, I'm the one that's going out there
Yeah,
providing
the
that
instructor
training.
and the
Yeah,
manager.
so we do everything possible to get them um, the flexible training that they do require. I mean, a lot of these manufacturers aren't on traditional shifts. They're not on the traditional schedule that academia has, and in this department, we do have that flexibility to meet their needs.
What have been some of the more interesting projects you worked on while you've been in this department?
Yeah, so my first and probably largest project to work with a company out of North Florida, Nutrien. Uh, they're a phosphate mine, and I would go down there and work directly with their maintenance team to get them upskilled to go through their tiers of maintenance positions. And I was out there every Wednesday for almost 3 years.
You were doing a lot of electrical training, but was there a lot of was there any automation involved in
Yeah,
that as well?
yeah.
Or?
So each of their tiered systems, so they're T1, T2, and T3. In T1, we give them all the basics of electrical and mechanical. The second tier, we started looking into motor controls and programmable automation processes. And then in tier three, we looked at the process controls. So, like, what is a transducer? How do I calculate flow? How do I control a process based off its temperature?
Okay. Well, we work well together as a department for sure, and everybody gets a part of
Absolutely.
almost everything. But something I feel that you brought to me and then organized and set it up yourself is the Goodwill construction program.
Yeah, so we have had a great partnership with Goodwill Industries. They approached us. They wanted a long term training solution to kind of target some populations that needed to get back into the workforce, and Goodwill was giving them that opportunity. So we developed a 4 week curriculum for construction and industry skills, and Goodwill did the marketing. They got the students involved, and we provided those training, location, everything else. So those students left a 4 week, about 160 hours of training with their OSHA 10, forklift, CPR, as well as a plethora of construction skills. Everything from how to lay a foundation to hanging sheetrock to basic plumbing, basic electrical.
And the first group got HVAC, and we've been
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
welding with them since.
Yeah,
But
we changed it up a little bit. So, yeah, in that first one we had HVAC, and then we've done welding, and then I think in a few more coming up, they want some different skills involved as well.
That's great. It's been a great program. You did an amazing job managing it.
Thank
There's
you.
so many moving parts, so many different instructors. I like the complicated stuff. I get the
Yeah,
feeling you do too.
yeah. The complicated stuff's nice, and then it gives you a chance to really get out your comfort zone and to tackle the challenge by working with a whole team of people, and then relying on them to finally pull all the strings together until that project's finished.
We're probably the mobile construction experts of at least the southeastern United
Yeah,
States, I would say.
at one time it was just about every other day between the two of us and a few of our team members. We were taking those mobile construction labs across the state,
Mhm.
uh, taking them all the way up to North Georgia, all the way to the coast, all the way to the Alabama line. We were keeping the road hot for sure.
Absolutely. Well, tell us a little bit about the Senior Leadership Academy for the Technical College System of Georgia.
Yeah, so this year I was nominated to be a part of that team. SLA is kind of developed to kind of bring up the leadership roles within the technical college system, and I had my first meeting last week with you know 21 other representatives from the other colleges, and we all got together. We got to meet, talk about what is a leader. We talked with our commissioner about kind of the incentives and how he sees TCSG in the state of Georgia and the direction he wants for it. And based off meeting those folks, I'm excited to be a part of that and excited to sharpen my leadership skills.
It's a great
Yeah,
program. I mean, it's got teeth behind it.
yeah. I know you went
I went
through
through
it.
it 2 years
Yeah,
ago. I've been promoted since then, and a lot of the people in our group were. So TCSG really believes in it. They because there is turnover, and we always talk about it in the trades that
yeah.
all of these machinists and stuff are in their 50s and 60s and looking to retire, and we need young people coming up. It's the same way with some of our educators across the state.
Right. Yeah. I know that there's tremendous turnover and retirement rates happening across the state. We have a few at Wiregrass that are retiring this year, and they're aiming at retiring within the next few years. So we definitely need to promote those leadership skills internally to ensure that that next generation of leadership is going to be around.
Well, I learned a lot from it for sure. And I've been in the field for 20 years, but like you said, even the commissioner explaining how the TCSG budget is formulated, I
Hmm.
mean, I had no idea. Nobody ever told me that. And it does help you to at least understand the system that you work in and then networking with all those individuals. We rarely get to meet outside of our peer groups.
Yeah.
We might know everybody who does our exact same job in the state, but we don't know who the VP of
Right.
Academic Affairs
Exactly.
is or
Or how many times did you get to encounter maybe the IT staff or a director of IT at another college and just kind of get an idea of what's going on over there and
how it
some
differs
how it
and
differs, or you know being outside of academics for a few years now, just being able to talk to a VPAA at a different college in a leadership session and find out the challenges that they're facing and how they're adapting to it.
That's right. Yeah. And I mean, if you're the kind of person that's willing to listen to somebody else's idea or open your mind up, you can benefit from it greatly.
Absolutely.
And I thought it was amusing that you showed me your score on that personality profile, and it was very, very similar to mine. And I was like, that's why I work so well with Josh, is our brains are wired similarly.
Yeah,
Mm.
well, almost half analytical, half conceptual. So I mean, just being able to not only think on the fly, but find that data that backs up those opportunities.
Well, I liken it to our process. If we ever catch our breath, we brainstorm and all ideas are on the table.
Yeah,
There's no dumb ideas in that session. Then we take all of them and then use the analytical part to winnow it down
exactly.
and figure
Yeah,
out. And then once you winnow it down, then how do you make this functional? How do you make it profitable? And it's like a superpower for.
yeah. In our second leadership session, they were kind of showing the breakdown of how
Mm.
everyone approaches those problems. I was like, yeah, that's exactly how our team does it. We're we're putting a dozen post-its up on the wall, and we're coming back to two or three of them and really doing a deep dive on those.
That's right. Yeah, aggressively pursue every opportunity. So.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, tell me a little bit about. I mean, I know you're a tech buff. I mean, you're the kind of guy that's you're going to get the new phone when it comes out. So, what are you interested in right now? What are you excited about in the future? And don't just say AI, because I know you can get way more specific than that. So,
Yeah, so when it comes to technology, we're seeing a major shift in what industry is using when it comes to the types of PLCs, to the types of robotic arms that they use. Um, the next big thing is how do you tie all that together? How do you capture all that data? And yeah, a lot of that data will be given to an AI system to help those efficiency models, but more or less, how do we get everything talking and playing nice together? So that integration standpoint is becoming something that's piquing my interest and really getting me to dive back into that system.
Have you done the tour of Wiregrass? Have you been?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I know they just brought their second furnace online,
Mm-hmm.
but I got to see it before that, and it's amazing to see some of those places like our glass function inside, and seeing all the moving parts and very few people, and that there was this big push, robotics and AI, they're going to be taking our jobs. They're really just transforming jobs. You're taking that operator who might have been pushing a button all day, and now you have a robotics technician instead. So it's a more robust job. It has a lot more growth involved with it, um, but definitely the opportunities are still out there.
Well, and if you go into a poorly automated plant and then go into a heavily automated
Oh yeah.
plant, you'll know which one you would prefer to work
Oh yeah,
in.
definitely. Typically, those highly automated plants, they have to be air conditioned. It's a very comfortable environment. Keep all the electronics at a good temperature. Not saying that our employees and, and operators don't need it, but um, it's definitely a vast change that
Mm-hmm.
we're seeing. When I first told my family I was getting into uh, maintenance or industrial systems, they're like, "All right, you just got to prepare yourself. You're gonna be on the factory floor. It's gonna be hot, sweaty, and grimy." And then while in college, I got to tour a few places. I'm like, "That's the exact opposite of what I've been told my entire life. This place is pretty nice. I could eat off the floor."
40 years ago, though, you would have had a wrench
Exactly.
hanging under your belt and you'd been covered in grease.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
today, you're in a lab coat and AC's
Yeah.
going.
Yeah, and you're probably
Mm-hmm.
carrying around a big iPad to check all your machinery with.
We're also, you and I both have an interest in astrophysics
Yeah.
and aliens. Like, what's most exciting about that? We were talking about the Comet 3I Atlas.
Yeah.
That turned out to be a
That
dud.
was a
Nobody's.
dud, but there's all these things going back and forth. Whether they're gonna say, "Oh, aliens are real," we're just kind of waiting on someone from the government to say, "Yeah, yeah, they are."
Well, the Trump administration has said they're going to release all of
Yeah,
that. Is
yeah,
it?
we're waiting on it. It'd be very interesting news. Maybe it won't be swept under the rug.
What do you think based on what you've seen out of some of these videos, the tech seems to be above. There's two theories. Is one
Right.
is it's aliens. The other is we secretly had this technology for many years.
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning on that one.
Mhm.
We probably had that technology for a long time, and now it's slowly coming out. Um, Whether or not the aliens are out there and they have superior technology and they're not sharing it with us yet, um, I probably aim on the side of the government not sharing it with us yet.
True, true. The one theory is that a lot of our modern tech came up out of
That's
Roswell.
right.
That they got a captured craft, and then all of a sudden fiber optics and transistors were all invented the next year out of Bell Laboratories. Do you give any credence to that?
Maybe a little bit. It's fun to dive in that rabbit hole and
Mm.
say, what if that's how we got all this stuff? But uh, when you kind of look at how fast, industry developed, and the the stipulations in which why they were developing, you're like, okay, that kind of makes sense on how we got all this. It all came from the space race and from unfortunately going to wars and things like that.
We're pretty smart on our own. We
Oh
don't
yeah,
need aliens to figure it out.
that's right.
Well, thanks, Josh. I enjoyed having you on the podcast.
Appreciate being here. Thank you.
You're welcome.